Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Thanks for coming by to check out another video. I have been waiting to make this exact video all year because at the beginning of the year, I set a goal for myself to make $10,000 in 60 days on eBay. And it was quite the challenge. I learned a lot of things along the way, and I want to share some tips and strategies with you that could help you hit whatever number it is you're trying to get to financially, or it could help you even hit other goals in your life, ones related to reselling or ones that have absolutely nothing to do with reselling. So let me show you right here the number I'm talking about. This is the over $10,000 mark. I was able to hit it sometime between a week and a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And you could see that I was still able to maintain that. This is my actual eBay account right here, bringing you right into it. So you could see here from July 10th to September 10th, which is today's date, that $10,000 number is still there. Now, that number is going to be relative to whoever it is that's watching this. So if you're brand new, you're just starting out, that number is going to seem pretty big. If you've been doing this for a long time, if you do it full time, if you have a lot of employees that are helping you out, that sort of thing, you're likely making a lot more than this in 60 days, and it's not going to really mean that much to you. But regardless, again, of where you're at, that's not really the point. The point of this video is really goal setting, no matter what the goal is, and trying to put processes in place to actually hit that. Now, for those of you who are brand new to my channel, because you saw the title and you haven't seen anything else before, let me just give you a brief overview of what other things I have going on the side, so you know sort of the challenges that I had to work with here to make this $10,000 number in 60 days. And by the way, before I mention that, some people are going to ask me what the net is on that, because this is a gross number. It's about 85%, give or take, depending on the month. As many of you know who do watch my haul videos and watch my what's sold videos, I buy quite low and try to sell quite high. That doesn't mean I don't have lower priced items, but I also have ones that sell quite high to make up for it. So we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But in terms of other things I have going on the side, I have a separate full-time job working as a board-certified neuropsychologist in a hospital that typically has me from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, just depends on the day, depends on the week. I also have 2 medical websites that I run that are related to one another. There is this one here, the Med Friendly medical website, which is like an online medical dictionary I created. And then this one here is the blog that's associated with it. Both of them bring in revenue. If you're curious about the blog and how to bring in revenue through that, I have a separate video on that. Just type in blog or blogging on my YouTube channel, and you'll find out about that. So I've got that. I've also got the Facebook group that I run, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, which takes up a lot of time, my Instagram account as well, and also this YouTube channel. And then family life. I have a wife, I have 2 kids. I definitely make sure to put them first and spend significant time with them as well. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to balance out, along with other things I haven't even mentioned. But you get the point. There's a lot of things going on, and I want this video to be inspirational to those of you who have a ton of other things going on. That's part of the reason I'm taking you through all this, because many of you have that full-time job, or you have that family that you have to devote time to. And so there's a lot of things that are going on in our lives, but there's still ways to make it work. Now, the first thing I would say as a tip is you have to have something that's motivating you to accomplish whatever goal it is that you're trying to set out. So for me, motivational reasons were, 1, I'm trying to bring in extra money for my family. Even though I have these other sources of revenue, if you've checked college tuition rates. Some colleges, it's like $60,000 a year. I don't know what's going to happen with scholarships. I have 2 kids. Yes, I have a full-time job that will help. But, if you take this number and you multiply it out for a year, that's $60,000 a year. That's a full year of college tuition at an expensive college. It could be 3 years of tuition at a $20,000 a year tuition college. So for me, paying for college is one thing that is a huge motivator for me. So that's number one. Number two, for me, I tend to be a very competitive person. And so if I see that somebody else has hit a certain number, I try to use that to motivate myself to accomplish that. I'll give you a perfect example of this. So last year, I was just starting back up again with eBay. My history goes back to 2000 with eBay, but I took a break from it for a while to pursue my professional career and do a lot of stuff with that. But as I've been getting more into building up the reselling business over the last 1.5 to 2 years, when I first started out, I was proud to hit that $1,000 mark. I was proud to hit the $2,000 mark. And I remember walking around one day at the flea market, and guy was telling me about the global shipping program on eBay. He has a full-time job and he mostly sells records. And he was telling me about this $800 record that he sold. He's like, yeah, it's incredible. You got to see, check it out. So he brings his phone out. He brings his eBay app up. And as he's showing it to me, his total sales figures in 60 days shows up and it says $6,000. Now this is in the summertime. I was at the flea market at the time. And I said to myself, this guy's making $6,000 in 60 days selling records. I'm like, I thought I was doing good with the 2,000. Now I know some people are going to say, don't compare. But I've talked about this before in my prior motivational video. Comparing is okay if you use the comparing to motivate yourself in a good way. It's bad if you're going to put yourself down about it, but it can be a good thing. It could be an inspirational thing. So for last year, my goal was to get to where he was. And I did that. I was at $6,000 and I stayed there all year. So when I got to that 6,000 by the end of December, then my goal was to try to bump that up to $10,000. So let's go and look at the $10,000 number. Now you could put any number you want in there. It could be 5,000, it could be 1,000, it could be 500, it could be 20,000, 50,000, whatever it is. It's really helpful because those are big numbers. If you think about it, you're trying to hit a goal, whatever that goal is, it's going to be higher than where you are now. So it could seem a little daunting. So it's good to try to break it up. This is strategy number 2. Break things up to more manageable, discrete units. So if we want to hit $10,000 in 60 days, we just have to figure out some simple math, which means on average, I'm going to have to hit $166.66 a day. Some days are going to be lower than that. Some days are going to be higher than that. You have to remember there's an ebb and flow to every single business. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. So it's okay if you have a day where you made $100 or $80, as long as you had another day where you did really well, that you can make up the difference. And having good days and bad days, by the way, just to go back to motivation, that is another reason why it's important to have something that's motivating you to get where you need to go to get over those bad days. But anyway, you need to make your goal something that is one in which you could break it down, break that big goal down, make it seem more manageable to yourself, and be able to measure it. Now, eBay makes it very easy to measure it because, as I've shown you, there's ways that you could just easily go on your app and, you could just bring up your 60-day total if you want. You could look at it, within the seller hub itself on eBay. And if you're doing this on Poshmark or Amazon, they all have their own ways in which you could track your numbers, but something you're going to have to keep an eye on. Okay, now, to take you through the trajectory of what happened to me this year, because things were quite challenging. I stayed at that $6,000 number for a while. Then I was at $5,000 and I was just kind of coasting along. And the strategy I was using is because if you think about it, there's 2 ways, right? If you're trying to increase sales and trying to bring that money in, that you could do it. If you're trying to increase it, you either are going to have to increase your volume. So you're going to have to sell a lot more. So if you're selling 5 items a day at a certain number, you're going to have to increase it to 10 or to 12 or to 15. Or you could keep your numbers the same as where you are in terms of how many units you're selling, but you have to increase your average sales price, also known as your ASP. Well, in the beginning of the year, what I was trying to do was I was trying to increase the volume. So I was trying to get up 10 items a day, 11 items a day, 12 items a day compared to the year prior where I was about half of that, 5 items a day, 6 items a day, something along those lines. So I was basically trying to double it. The problem I ran into is I was usually doubling it with items that weren't really worth that much. So they would be items I would sell for $20 that, yeah, maybe I picked up for 15 cents, but if you list, maybe 7 of those at $20, that's $140. That's a little bit short of the $166. So I found myself working hard, but I wasn't working smart, which is another principle. You have to work hard, but you have to work smart. You think about a hamster. A hamster works really hard running around in that wheel in the hamster cage, but that hamster isn't going anywhere. That hamster is stationary. So a lot of times we get into certain habits in which we think that they're successful, but if we really take a step back and look at it, it's really not that successful. Yes, maybe you're working very hard, but is it really effective, and is it getting you to the place that you want to go? So that's another tip right there. So you have to have a way to measure things, and you have to have a way to realize, these are kind of 2 different tips. You have to have a way to realize when things aren't quite going the way you need them to be. And what started to happen to me in June was I started looking at this number. Now, I look at this number all the time, so I shouldn't say I started to look at it, but I'm looking at it, I'm monitoring it, and this is the number I want to point you to right here. Compared to where you are, so your sales compared to where you are a year ago. Now, right now, you could see it's at 126.5% over where I was a year ago, which is consistent with what I was telling you. I was about, 5,000, 6,000 last year. But what happened to me around June is that number for the first time went in the red. The first time ever. I actually was making less compared to where I was a year ago. This monthly number I look at, but that's not as important because you could have like a really giant sale one month and then maybe the next month you can't exactly replicate that. So the 31 days, I'm more flexible with that. But this number here, if you're trying to grow your business, this number has to go up. And if it's going down, that needs to be the trigger for you to stop. So just to recap some of these tips, you have to use data to realize when it's time to change course. Most likely, when you try to pursue a really challenging, difficult goal, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have times when you get knocked down, and you're going to need to find a way to get back up and sometimes change course and adjust your strategy. Now, one way to do that I found and continue to find to be very effective is to find a way to step away and just think and reflect. That could be taking a little vacation for a couple days. That could just be putting everything down. That could be just going to the gym for a while and just relaxing and, going in a sauna or going in the pool or whatever it is that you like to do to relax, but just get away to a place where you could clear your mind. It could be going to the beach, whatever it is for you that's relaxing, and come up with a new plan, because obviously the plan I had was not working and I was going in the complete wrong direction. So what I did is I realized that if I wanted to hit this number right here, since the strategy of increasing volume wasn't working, what I had to do was increase the average sale price. So that is another thing that gets overlooked, because if you look at right here, I hit the $10,000 mark with only 159 active listings and 167 solds. That's not that many items, but I did it by sourcing low and making sure I was giving priority to listing items that were going to sell at that higher end range. So this is another tip about the increased average sale price. And I bring this up because if you look on Instagram and you look on Facebook, you're going to see a lot of people posting about how many items they have that are active. That can be a very great thing. I'm not knocking that for people who have 800 listings, and a lot of people have accomplished that and are proud of that, and rightfully so. All I'm saying about that, though, is that that number of 900 listings, 1,000 listings, 2,000 listings isn't going to mean a lot if they're not good items, if they're not items that are moving. The ideal situation is to have a lot of items listed that sell at a very profitable rate. But if you have items that are just sitting there and paying fees on because you've went over your listing fee quota, then what does that really matter? Okay, now you could say the same thing about this too, though, by the way. You could say, well, it doesn't really matter if you're making $10,000 gross if you spent $9,000 to get to the 10. But again, that's why I brought up earlier, that's not the situation here. This is a buy low, sell very high type of situation. So you could do it this way. I just want to point that out. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel embarrassed that you don't have 200 listings, or that you don't have 300 listings because your friend does or something like that. Just do what works for you to hit the number that you're trying to hit. And then once you hit that number, you make a new goal, take it from there. So examples of some things that helped me along the way. This was really the first one, the first big ticket item was this train set, this Lionel train set that wound up selling for that says $674.99, sold for $600. So I took a best offer on it. We kind of went back and forth on it. So that really helps. That's a $600 sale. This one here, and I've talked about this in other videos. If you want to go back and learn how much I paid for it and all this stuff, just watch my What's Sold videos. This one here also sold for $600. Mrs. Primetime helped out with finding this, and we worked together in terms of me going out there, realizing there was a signature on it, and and actually going and picking it up. So $600 on this one, and then this one certainly helped a lot. This was my first and only ever sale that was in the $1,000 range. This one actually sold for the number you see there, $1,249.99. So that's one sale that puts me at over a tenth of where I'm trying to get to. So it's very important. You got to look around your inventory if you're trying to hit a certain financial goal and prioritize the items that are going to get you there. You got to come up with a plan, though, and there's another tip. You want to make that plan something that you write out and you keep visible, and you want to also break that down into units that you could check off along the way. I'm going to show you what I mean here. I had to come up with a plan with my time restraints. How was I going to do this? So what I did is, you see here it says comics, okay? So number one thing, so that's what I focus on, comics. I'm going to put at least one bulk comic book item up. Then I'm going to do some clothing related items because I have a big clothing pile I want to get to. Then I'm going to put some kind of miscellaneous bulky item up. That could be something big like the train set, or it could be something big like an electronics piece. And usually those bigger pieces are going to sell for more. So that's another strategy. And then as much as possible after that. So that gave me a structure of what to do. And then you could see I put little goals, and you could watch. If you look back from June until recently, I had this hanging up on the door behind me. And if you go through the videos, you'll see that I'm writing the date when I accomplished these different goals of 5K, 6K, 7K, 8K. And one of them here, you see with the 5K, I hit the 5K. I went from 4 to 5. Then I had a setback, which is why you see 2 days there. And then I had to get back to that level. So you can't give up. You have to keep persisting. And then eventually, here it is, 9/2. That's when I hit the 10K mark. So it was 8 days ago. We said a week to 2 weeks. So 8 days is when I hit it. But keeping this out and putting it on a place that I'm looking at it every single day, that really helped me out a lot, because it's something that kept me motivated and kept me focused, because I know I don't want to slip back. I don't want to have that feeling of having this number here go down in the red. Now, another thing that I had to do, and I'm going to bring this up again because somehow I knocked it off, which is related to YouTube, is I had to develop better work habits. Not that I have bad work habits. I have good work habits already, but I had to find ways to fine-tune them. So, for example, a lot of fellow YouTubers out there, and as you know, I do a lot of interviews with them. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of the really successful YouTubers who are also bringing in a lot of money. When I ask them who their favorite YouTubers are, they often tell me they don't watch any YouTube videos or they barely watch YouTube. So what I started to do is just more and more shift my YouTube watching to only when I'm doing something related to reselling. So behind me, if I'm packing items, that's when I've got on Craigslist Hunter or Rockstar Flipper or Raking Profits or Wade or the Auction Professor or Thrift Shop Hustler, Rally Roots, all these different people. These are, and I didn't mean to leave anyone out there. It's just, I'm just naming a few examples. But those are people also that motivate me. When I see what they're doing in their videos and how successful they've been and items that they made a good score on, I don't get upset at that. I get inspired by that. So again, going back to an earlier tip, making sure you're using that stuff as inspiration. But with regards to YouTube watching, if you're trying to hit a financial goal, be careful how much of your time could get sucked into that and other types of social media activities. So whether it's being on Instagram all day or being on Facebook for a long time and you're not listing, if you're trying to hit this number of $166 per day, that's not going to happen if you're spending all your day on social media. Which brings me to another point. I don't have all these things numbered, but trust me, if you add them all up, it's going to be 10 or more points and 10 or more tips. Which is, and this is something I learned from watching Wade's videos. I saw him listing one day. I don't remember if it was on Instagram or if he was listing on YouTube. But one of the things he talked about is each day he started thinking about listing a certain amount of money's worth of items. So if you think about it, if you're correct and you're good with your comps research, if you're trying to hit $167 a day and you list at least $167 worth of items a day, that should get you to where you want to go. And you should probably go a little bit over that just to play it safe. But that could be a much better strategy than just trying to tell yourself, I'm going to list 10 items and you just get 10 items. Those 10 items may not add up to this number that you need to get to your main goal. So start thinking more in terms of listing based on dollar amounts. I do it all the time. Like last night, I listed 3 things. I was so busy. I had to bring my son to basketball practice from 7:30 to 9:30 was the time we got home. I had a full day of work. I was only able to list 3 things, but I listed over $300 worth of items, and one of them I sold today for $80, which was $70, which was one of those posters that I found in my poster haul. So that's another thing. Another thing that you could find helpful, as many of you know, I don't get a ton of sleep. I do think that you do have to look at that. I mean, you have to find a time somehow. So if you're trying to hit a goal, waking up early, staying up a little late, I'm not telling you to do anything that's going to make yourself sick, but if you're oversleeping or if you're going to bed earlier than you really need to, just spending an extra half hour or an extra hour can help you. Like a perfect example, right before 9/2, when I was about to hit, it was like the weekend of 9/2, like right before that. I'm like right there. I'm like a couple $100 away. I'm trying to hit it. Mrs. Primetime comes downstairs at about 6 o'clock in the morning and she sees me sitting there cleaning a blue Ford truck. And I told her, I gotta get this listed. I know I could sell this thing for $100. And sure enough, later on today, or the next day, it sold for $99.99. So it sold for $100. And that's because that morning I got up and I was working on cleaning it, or it sold within a couple days, something like that. But it helped me get to where I needed to get to. So, these are all things that are good habits that you need to try to establish to try to make yourself more efficient with your time and make yourself more productive. Sometimes you need to also learn to take breaks from things that you're doing that are also time wasters. So that could be maybe you're spending too much time watching a certain television show that maybe you could fit that into something else you're doing. Maybe you can multitask. You can maybe watch the television show while you are on the treadmill or something like that. Or maybe even if you're doing something repetitive related to your eBay business in the background or your Poshmark business, or while you're sharing, you could do it then. For me, one of the things that was helpful was actually taking sourcing breaks here and there. Now, as many of you know, I love sourcing. I'm the primetime treasure hunter, so I love going out, and that's very hard for me to do, to take sourcing breaks. But on a weekend, if I'm trying to hit a goal and I'm so close to where I want to go and where I want to get to, and I know that on Sunday there's a huge estate sale and I could go in the morning to a flea market, garage sales are kind of winding down, there's not too much out there. You know what? I could skip a day of garage sales. It's okay. Yeah, I might miss something, but you got to tell yourself it's okay. There's just so much time available. So you got to kind of balance it out sometimes, do things in more in moderation. Another great example is my YouTube channel. When I started my YouTube channel and was trying to get established, I probably had like 3 months, 4 months where I made a video every single day, whether I had to stay up until 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning or not. That was a main goal of mine back then, was really building up the channel early on to get it established. And I did that, and then I had this new goal evolve, and I had hit my YouTube subscriber goal of 5,000 this year. So, it was much easier to focus in on that $10,000 goal in 60 days on eBay. And, so I just shifted over to making that more the priority. And YouTube still was a priority, but just not as much. So instead of making a video every single day, I more shifted to making one every 2 days. And that's currently how I've been doing it lately. That's why you've seen a little bit of a decrease, but that's okay. And if some days I could make consecutive videos, I do that. But you can't have, especially if you don't have employees and if you're the main person doing it and you have all these other things going on, you can't do every single thing full steam all the time. You've got to try to balance it out more. So that's kind of a key thing that you've seen kind of weaved throughout all of these different tips that I've passed on to you. So again, if you add all those up, it's at least 10 tips. There's probably more of them worked in there. And I hope that all these tips help you and get to whatever goal it is you want to get to, whether it's $10,000 in 60 days, whether it's $5,000, $20,000, whatever it is, or if it's some other goal in your life. Like I said in the beginning of this video, hopefully some of these things could help you out. You just have to generalize them to your specific situation. So if you like this video, if you think the tips were helpful, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, smash that like button for me. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, especially if you are brand new to it. If this is the first video and you've stuck with it to this point, thanks very much. There's almost 500 other videos on this channel that you could watch and learn from, and it'll take you through how I source items like these, how I found these kind of things, all this kind of stuff, how I prep some of them to list, how I ship them. I have a whole big playlist section here which will take you through all of those different areas, live shows, all sorts of things. Make sure you also come to the Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link to that is down below. One of the things that's real cool about that group is every Sunday I pick one person to be the selected seller, and everyone in the group goes and tries to buy from that person. And the last person we had up for that this past weekend, she made 38 sales and over $400 in gross sales for the day. So it was awesome, and she was just blown away by it, and the whole group just rallied behind her. So we do that every single week, and there's so many other things going on. So check out the group. Don't miss out on it. It's free to join, and it's a lot of fun. Follow me on Instagram. I put stuff on Instagram that I don't put on this channel. Like just today, I put a video up. It's a 60-second little clip about the furniture restoration business that I'm helping Mrs. Primetime out with. That's my wife. For those of you who are new to the channel, we have these little pet names for people, so go check that out. There's also a little Daisy appearance. That's my little Shih Tzu dog. She's awesome, so you can get to see her sprinkled in throughout the different videos. That's pretty much it, everybody. I'm having a hard time wrapping this video down because I was so excited to do it, but it is time to go. I've got a bunch of things I have to pack for the day, and I'll see everyone at the next video, which I'll put another one up this week. But one last thing, there will not be a live show tomorrow night, Wednesday. I'm going to skip it for this week because I'm going to be on Courtney Hayes' channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the Bolo Buddies YouTube channel. We're going to talk about bolos, items to be on the lookout for. Don't miss that one. Going to be a lot of fun. Hope to see you there in the chat. Take care, everybody.